Welcome, everybody. We have our good friend Michelle back, who's our concierge nutritionist, been working with Adams Wealth Partners and then Chris's team at Gentian Financial and also Tim's team over at Freeze Financial. She's worked with all three of us for the last couple of years. We're excited to have her again today. Today's presentation is a very interesting one. It's called A Deeper Dive, and specifically, we're going to be talking about gut health and also specifically microplastics, which is a hot topic now that's come up quite a bit. We'll do Q&A for sure at the end. You can also, down at the bottom of your screen, you can raise your hand, ask a question, and those will get kind of populated. We'll take a look at those either as we go or kind of towards the end, but definitely put your questions there and we'll address those. And then my buddy Chris, hello. Anything you want to say?
Hello, David. No, thank you so much. It's really great to have you. We love you as a trusted resource. A lot of our clients have referred to what you've told them if they haven't reached out to you in person as well. It's really a valuable resource you provide for us because, again, it's not about just living a life. It's about living a whole life, a great life, and even just the advice, you'll nudge us toward the right decision, right? So you're there looking at the shelf and going, boy, that looks good. Look at the ingredients. And just those little things make a massive difference in how we feel and how we interpret the world. So I just want to say a big shout out and gratitude to you from all three of our practices. I know it's different, it's unusual, but people have been telling me that my whole life.
I think I told you that this morning.
You did. Thank you, David. I appreciate you. No, but without further ado, I know Tim will come on probably for questions as well. But why don't we turn it over to Michelle? Michelle, I know this topic we talked a little bit about last time, and you said, we might want to have a whole subject on it. And I've, talked to a few people about gut health lately. It's a huge, it's a universe that's unexplored, if you will. There's 3 trillion different organisms in your gut, and there's a few billion, DNA cells in your body. So you look at the scale, it is a massive universe that is that to be explored. So thank you for helping us.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me back. I love being here. I'm really excited about today's conversation. Microplastics and gut health. They threw 2 things at me that I was trying to figure out how to connect them together, and I came up with the title, A Deeper Dive, because we talk a lot about nutrition, we talk a lot about exercise, and those are 2 huge components to our overall health and well-being, but there's more than that. So maybe you're doing a pretty good job making good nutrition choices. You're doing a pretty good job getting in your, 5 days a week at the gym or whatever your choice of exercise is, and you're wondering, hey, what's next? What else can I do? And so that's what today is about. A few additional things that we can start to incorporate, and we're going to go with the low-hanging fruit pieces. I don't want this to be incredibly overwhelming, because when you think about all the toxins that we're exposed to, all the different inner workings of our gut, it can feel heavy, it can feel like a lot, it can feel like we're swimming upstream. So I want to make sure that you guys leave with some tangible things on how do we make the best choices when it comes to improving our gut health, and then how do we avoid microplastics and do the best job that we can, and just understand that we can control only what's within our control, and the other, we have to let go of the things that we can't. Okay.
Awesome.
So with that, yeah, go ahead, David.
I saw Tim join. Tim, hello. We already gave you a shout out, you and your practice, and introduced Michelle. But if you want to say hello back to us or say hello to Michelle or anything, I think you're on mute. Yeah.
All kinds of technical difficulties.
Welcome to the party.
Hello from Chippewa Falls. Michelle, good to see you. Sorry about my being a little bit late here, but can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, no worries at all, Tim. Thanks for joining us. If everybody's good with the introductions, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can see my slides. Share, present. I got fancy with my slides, you guys. Went into Canva.
Wow, that's awesome. That looks great. Now you're using AI as well as gut health. And I mean, this is awesome. Using AI, Canva, all the latest.
Look at all of this. Look at all this. Wow. All right, so a deeper dive. Let's dive in. All these puns for the diver. If you guys remember my story, I got into this because I was a diver, I had a really bad back injury. I had to be put together. I didn't want to go under the knife. I didn't want to lay in bed. And I had this incredible strength and conditioning coach who opened my world up to what back then were some of the fringe things, lowering your inflammation as far as food goes and supplements, doing deep water running, doing cold plunge, doing sauna, taking anti-inflammatory supplements, seeing a chiropractor for active release therapy, all those things that were so fringe back then put me back together. I never went under the knife. I never laid in bed for 6 months. I kept working out, which was incredible. I got to keep training my core. And after that, after 6 months, I was almost 100% better. And at that moment, I was like, I got to tell people about this stuff. I got to tell people about the power of their lifestyle choices and that we can do much more than we think. There's a lot more that's within our control than we understand. Our lifestyle choices matter. Yes, we have been given a genetic code, maybe for you have some unlucky genes, but you can decide whether or not those genes are expressed based on your lifestyle choices. So we're going to talk a lot about lifestyle choices today and how do we make better choices to help flourish our gut with lots of different, as Chris said, different types of bacteria. And then how do we try to avoid these microplastics that are damaging to our health? So with that, we've got lots of things that influence our health. I mentioned previously that we spend a lot of time talking about nutrition and physical activity, and they are incredibly important, no doubt. But today we're going to go a little bit deeper. Okay, we can see the number of other things that influence our health. This is just 8. There are plenty of other things, but stress and sleep, our gut health, our social interaction, our social circle. Sometimes we don't think about that. We need to interact with other people. We need to have a village. Life truly takes a village. Environmental toxins, that's the other piece of today's presentation. And then purpose. If you guys haven't seen it's a little mini series on Netflix, a guy that explores the blue zones, the 5 places around the world that have the highest concentration of centenarians, folks that live to be over 100. And it's all different. I mean, they're all over the world. They're not all in one place. They're all different ethnic groups. They're different culturally. They're different in many things. But then there's common threads among all 5 of those places. One is low-level physical activity all throughout the day. They all eat pretty well, whole foods based diet. Social interaction is huge. They all have a community. But another thing that's a common thread through all of them is purpose. They all seem to have a reason for being here, a greater purpose beyond themselves. They're taking care of other people. They have a higher power they believe in. But they have some kind of purpose. And so I think that's something when we think about our health, we don't bring it back to having a purpose. That was a big tangent for something that we're not even going to dive into today. But one of the biggest influences of our health that is being talked about today, I think that's why we wanted to highlight it in this presentation, is gut health. You probably have heard that term. Maybe you've seen it on social media. Maybe you've seen it on the news. People are starting to talk about your gut health and how it impacts so many other processes in the body, can make or break your overall health and well-being. So let's talk about what is your gut health, what influences your gut health, how do you even know if your gut health is good or bad, and then how do we make sure that we are optimizing our gut health. That's the first part of the presentation. And the second part is we're going to zoom in on those environmental toxins and specifically microplastics. Okay, so let's get into gut health. Let's just define it for anybody who's wondering, what in the world does that even mean? As a reminder, gut and all the microorganisms that reside within them. Okay, they play a huge role in digestion, nutrient absorption, immune function, and mental health. Okay, just to name a few, and that might seem crazy. Oh my gosh, my mental health is impacted by my gut. And that's because what happens is that your neurotransmitters, which are the little electrical signals that run around your brain, they make you feel happy, they make you feel sad, they make you feel angry, they make you feel tired, they're made in your gut. And so if your gut isn't healthy, then we're not making the right neurotransmitters to fill the appropriate responses at the appropriate times. So we're going to talk a little bit about how the mental health issues that we have plaguing our country could come back to our gut health, and how do we optimize gut health so that we feel the appropriate feelings at the appropriate time. Then we're going to dive a little bit deeper into digestion, nutrient absorption, and immune function later in the presentation. Okay, so maybe you're sitting here and you're wondering, do I have any issues with my gut? Is my gut okay? And some of the ones that we think of when we think of gut issues, we think of gas and bloating and acid reflux, constipation, diarrhea, stomach pain, because those are what we think of when we think of our gut. The direct issues, oh, my stomach hurts, my stomach, there must be a problem with my stomach. Oh, I'm bloated, there must be a problem with my GI system. And those are really common. I think we have roughly 30% of the country suffering with acid reflux. So that's that heartburn feeling. Maybe you pop a Tums every once in a while. Maybe you're taking one of those PPIs. I want to remind you that a PPI is an incredibly harsh drug. And when they originally came out, the pharmaceutical companies told doctors, hey, don't put people on these acid reflux medicines for more than 6 weeks. They're very harmful to the body. And then that kind of, I don't know what happened, but now people have ended up on these acid reflux medicines for 20 years. And there's a direct link between acid reflux and cancer. Acid reflux medications, those PPIs, and cancer. So if I'm talking to you and you're like, oh my gosh, I've been taking my PPI for 10 years, I want you to write some notes down from this presentation so that you can work to get away from that PPI. It's not something that you have to take forever. It's something you shouldn't certainly not take forever. And we can manage it with better nutritional choices so that our body has the appropriate pH balance and we don't need the PPI medication. Other signs that your gut health could use some improvement: skin issues. Did you know there's a direct link between gut health and your skin? So if you suffer from eczema, psoriasis, acne, keratosis pilaris, any other like rash that seems to be inflammation related that keeps coming back on your skin, could be because of your gut. And we're going to talk about the link in just a minute. If you suffer from an autoimmune disease or any sort of immune dysfunction, if you get sick often, if you have been diagnosed with autoimmune, if you have seasonal allergies, right now here in North Carolina, seasonal allergies are awful for a lot of people. A food intolerance, like every time you eat bread, your stomach hurts. Every time you have dairy, you break out with acne. Joint pain, if you have chronic joint pain, your joints are inflamed, it could be because of your gut. Asthma, that's another gut health issue, could be. And then some miscellaneous things. Maybe you just constantly feel foggy. Chris mentioned that before we got started on this call that he has started fasting and he's eliminated sugar from his diet, and his brain fog, he said his brain is functioning better maybe than ever, which is pretty incredible. Fatigue, chronic migraines, and mood disorders are all also related to your gut. So maybe one thing on here has, shown up for you in your life recently. That could be a sign that we could do better with our gut health. So listen up. Why? What is the link between my acid reflux or my acne or my chronic fatigue and my gut? And here it is. So you probably heard this term, leaky gut. That's another buzzword that's out there these days. And what that means is there are legitimately partially digested pieces of food leaking through your small intestine. Okay, so I want you to look at the left side of your screen. That's a healthy gut. So this is the inside of your small intestine. Your small intestine is one cell layer thick. Let me back up and zoom out a little bit more. So your digestive tract is what we call a closed system. So from your mouth to the other end, it's a closed tract. That means you put food in and the only thing that should come and be absorbed into the body is what the body pulls out. There shouldn't be any holes in your stomach. There shouldn't be a hole in your esophagus. There shouldn't be a hole in your small intestine. It's a closed tract from one end to the other. Okay, the body just pulls out the nutrients that it wants. Okay. So in your small intestine, one cell layer thick, that's pretty thin. It's got all these villi on the side of it. Okay, all these microvilli is what we call that. Think about it like little tentacles coming off the side of your small intestine. And they're supposed to be locked in pretty close to one another. All right, real tight, nice tight junctions. What happens is that if we're eating a lot of foods that are really inflammatory, we're eating a lot of sugar, we're eating a lot of gluten, we're eating maybe things that our body's sensitive to, we've had a lot of rounds of antibiotics in our life, we start to get little gaps, little holes in our small intestine. Okay? When your body is, maybe you eat some Cheez-Its in your mouth, down your esophagus, into your stomach, they digest a little bit, then into your small intestine they go. your body is going to pull out from the Cheez-Its what it wants, which isn't very much. There's not many nutrients in a Cheez-It, okay? But during that process, while it's going through your small intestine, if your small intestine has these little holes in it, partially digested Cheez-Its are going to slip through your small intestine, and right on the other side of your small intestine is your bloodstream. So now your bloodstream picks up these partially digested Cheez-Its and they get circulated around the body. Okay, we don't want Cheez-Its in our blood. That's not a good place for Cheez-Its. All right. What happens? They start circulating through the blood, and your body recognizes those Cheez-Its as a foreign invader. Okay, that's not where they're supposed to be. That's a foreign object that's in the blood, in the body, in a place where it's not supposed to be. So your immune system goes to work and it starts attacking itself. So think about the words autoimmune, auto meaning self, immune system. Your immune system is attacking yourself because you've got Cheez-Its in your body where they're not supposed to be. It thinks it's a foreign invader. So these autoimmune diseases that I think we're up to over 200 different autoimmune diseases now, a lot of times it comes back to an unhealthy gut, comes back to leaky gut. So we've got to heal the gut. We can't have little holes in our small intestine because then your body's just going to keep attacking itself. And when your body's attacking itself, it shows up in all different kinds of forms and fashions. So it could be a autoimmune disease, psoriasis, eczema. Those are also gut conditions because the body's inflamed, the body's attacking itself, and it's showing up in maybe in the form of a migraine. Maybe in that gas, bloating, constipation could be showing up in those. So we've got to heal the gut lining, get those junctions nice and tight so that we don't have partially digested food leaking out into the body where it's not supposed to be. Okay, some other things that we need to do to make sure we have a healthy gut is we have a diverse microbiome. So what does that mean? There are tons of different types of bacteria in our gut, and we need them. We need lots of different types of bacteria, and we get in trouble when we have an overgrowth of one type of bacteria and not enough of another type of bacteria. So something like eating probiotic foods, prebiotic foods, taking a probiotic supplement are all going to help with the diversification of the microbiome. There was a big project that they're still doing it right now. It's called the American Gut Project. And they're looking at the guts of, I think they've looked at 40,000 Americans, and they've defined what's a healthy gut and what's an unhealthy gut. And the things that the healthy gut people have in common is that they eat, on average, 30 types of plants per week. 30 different types of plants. So when I first heard that, I thought to myself, I can't name 30 vegetables, but it's not what they're talking about. They mean fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and herbs. Okay, so when you extrapolate it out and you include all of that in the plant category, which they are all plants, that makes it a lot more doable. So you think, you eat almonds, you eat cashews, you eat pistachios, pistachios you eat, and then think about all the vegetables you eat throughout the week, then think about all the fruits and then all the herbs you use. So you can probably get there. You just have to be very intentional about eating different types of foods. All right, a lot of times we meal prep chicken, broccoli, and rice, and while that's all really good, if we're trying to do that deeper dive and optimize our health even more, we want diversity. All right, what are some other contributors to leaky gut? Processed foods, that's the number one contributor. All right, things that come out of a bag or a box. What are processed foods? That's what they are. They are very far from their original form and how they started in nature. Okay, so a Cheez-It is a great example. Cereal, most cereals, a lot of the ones that are marketed towards our kids. Bread and pasta are processed foods. There are exceptions to that rule, and we can get into those. A lot of the snack foods promoted towards our kids are processed things. Chips, candy, cookies. A lot of the baked goods are pretty far from their original form. Okay, so we want to minimize those. Sugar is a major contributor. It's a very inflammatory. It is creating those holes in our small intestine. Sugar in it, and it's got lots of forms. So high fructose corn syrup, regular sugar, molasses in any form. Gluten and dairy, two other top contributors to these little holes in our small intestine. Food sensitivities. So for many of us, for whatever reason, it's not a true allergy, it's a sensitivity, and for whatever reason, maybe it's garlic and it's contributing to the holes in the small intestine, contributing to the leaky gut. Might be bananas, might be avocado, could be healthy foods, and we'll talk about how do I even know if an avocado is hurting me or helping me. Alcohol is incredibly inflammatory, really bad for the gut. A lot of people notice bloating after they have a night of drinking, and that's because of the imbalance of the gut microbiome coming from alcohol. And then these artificial sweeteners. So we thought we were in the clear for a long time. Oh, if we just take the sugar out, we can do something like sucralose, which is Splenda, aspartame, sugar alcohol, erythritol and xylitol, or saccharin, and that's a healthier substitute for traditional sugar. And in the ways of blood sugar, it's not creating that big spike in our blood sugar. However, we're figuring out is that they're toxic to our gut and they're toxic to our brain. So really, I like to say it all the time, is there's no such thing as a free lunch. So if we can just do our best to avoid sugar in its many forms, and then the artificial sweeteners found in things that claim to be sugar-free or diet. Aspartame is the artificial sweetener in diet soda. Sucralose is the artificial sweetener found in Gatorade Zero, Powerade Zero, a lot of the protein bars, a lot of the protein shakes, and the Premier protein shakes. There's a lot of people out there drinking Premier protein shakes. If you could swap that out for something like the Orgain protein shake, it's a pre-made, still in the cardboard box, just a one-for-one swap. Okay, it's going to do your body, do your gut a huge favor. All right. So let's link it all together. So we've got the contributors, we've got processed foods and gluten and dairy and food sensitivities and stress and antibiotics, over antibiotic use. Antibiotics, they kill bacteria in the body. And remember how I said you need a lot of different types of bacteria in your gut for a healthy microbiome? When we're taking antibiotics, and if we take them too often and not replenishing the bacteria in our gut, then our gut can get really out of balance. You can end up with something like SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, where you get the overgrowth of a specific type of bacteria. And that's not what we want. We want diversity. Okay, so if you have taken a lot of antibiotics this year or in your life in general, start to listen up. We need to consider a probiotic to replenish the good bacteria. There's a number of things that we can do, but we'll get there. And then alcohol. So we've got all those things maybe working against us, contributing to the holes in the small intestine, contributing to inflammation within the gut. All right, then we've got leaky gut, and then the symptoms come along. The skin issues, the seasonal allergies, joint pain, autoimmune disease, migraines, GI discomfort, fatigue, mood disorders. And how our healthcare system works is that what we start doing is, oh, you have joint pain, take ibuprofen. Oh, you've got eczema or psoriasis, put on this cream. Oh, you have GI discomfort, take this PPI. You have chronic migraines, take this migraine medicine. But that's not the problem. All right, so we need to stop treating the symptom and we need to focus on the contributing factors, and then the downstream effect will be, oh, my acne cleared up. Oh, I don't have chronic migraines anymore. Oh, my joints don't hurt anymore. Okay, so our healthcare system is really set up as a band-aid. It's a sick care system. You have a symptom, let's treat the symptom versus making its way back to the root cause. That's more functional medicine, integrative medicine, holistic medicine. They really try and focus on the root cause so that the downstream effect is we don't need any of the medicines just for the symptoms. We've fixed it from the beginning. Okay, so let's fix the root cause. How do we do this? Again,
hey, Michelle, this might be a good, can I just, there was a question that popped up from my office that might be related to the last slide, which is there a blood test or anything that can test for these, for the leaky gut? Or is it just, do you have to just pay attention to the symptoms?
Good question. So there's not necessarily a blood test that says you have leaky gut. I will, on the next slide, we're going to talk about testing that you can do for food sensitivities, or there's a stool test. We'll get there. There isn't a test to know whether or not you have leaky gut.
Perfect.
Full stop. If you are experiencing any of those symptoms, then we need to look at the gut, and we can talk about how we can do that in a second. Okay, all right, so fixing the root cause. Number one, it would be to begin to eliminate the foods that we know for sure are contributing to gut inflammation. So that would be sugar, dairy, gluten, alcohol, and the artificial sweeteners. I was careful to not say that we have to stop forever. Begin to eliminate, maybe minimize, okay? Just being aware of how much sugar we consume. So going back to the power of the fork, that presentation that I love to give, we talk about how do we figure out how much added sugar is in a product. The food companies now have to tell us. It's on that line on the back of anything with a nutrition label, includes blank grams of added sugar. So I'm not talking about natural sugar from fruit, natural sugar in dairy products. I'm talking about added sugar. We want to do our best to minimize that, minimize our exposure to dairy. Hey, gluten. Gluten is wheat, barley, and rye. There are lots of products now that are certified gluten-free. Lots of people are struggling with a gluten allergy, sensitivity, or celiac disease. And so the food companies are coming along and saying, okay, we're going to make a lot of gluten-free products. So doing your best there. Alcohol, minimizing our alcohol intake. My ladies, less than 7 drinks a week. My gentlemen, less than 10 drinks a week. And even less than that would be ideal. And then watching out for those artificial sweeteners. Because these artificial sweeteners are so sweet, products don't have to use much of them. So if you think back again to that power of the fork presentation, ingredients are listed in order of abundance. So the most abundant ingredient is first and the least abundant ingredient is last. A lot of times you'll see sucralose as the last ingredient, or aspartame, or one of those sugar alcohols, xylitol or erythritol. And it's because they don't have to use much because it's so sweet, but that doesn't make it non-toxic. Okay, it's still, even in its tiny amounts, is hurtful to the gut and the brain. Okay, so being aware, looking at the ingredient list of the foods you're consuming for those words, sucralose, aspartame, or xylitol, erythritol. Number 2, Tim, coming back to your question here, how do we figure out if we've got any issues going on in the gut? If you've got a hunch because you've got the symptoms, I would encourage you to either do a food sensitivity test or to do a stool test. Okay, so a food sensitivity test, that's going to tell us exactly what foods are contributing to our inflammation within the body. Inflammation, as a reminder, is about the root cause of roughly 80% of disease. Okay, so if we can decrease inflammation in the body by removing the foods that are contributing to inflammation, contributing to leaky gut, then we can heal the gut lining and we can decrease systemic inflammation and heal ourselves from many different diseases. Okay, so a food sensitivity test, I have 2 pictured on here. The Everlywell one, top right of your screen, that's one you can order online. It's $200, comes to your house, you prick your finger, it's a quick little blood test, you send it off, they test your blood up against 96 different foods, unless you splurge on the bigger test. It's more money, but they test against more foods. And then they give you results in 2 to 3 weeks of what foods, it's not an allergy, but what foods are contributing to inflammation in the gut. So again, if you're struggling with any of the symptoms on that slide that says maybe my gut needs improving, a food sensitivity test might be for you. The Everlywell one is an option, and that's one that comes right to your house. The second one underneath there where you can see the results, that's one through biotech. That's one that we offer in our functional medicine practice. If you have a functional medicine provider in your area, they can do this for you. They would do the test on you. This one is 144 different foods. Our price is $214. So for 15 more bucks compared to Everlywell, you can get 50 more foods, which is pretty cool. And then it'll rate each food on a scale from 0 to 4 of how inflammatory it is to the body. So then what we do with that information, whether you use the Everlywell or the biotech one, you pull those foods out of your diet. And then we need to heal the gut while we do that. So I give people the analogy of, if you're eating a bunch of foods that are causing this inflammation in the body and you just keep eating them, we're in trouble, right? It's like taking your toe and just jamming it into a door frame repeatedly, and wondering why your toe hurts so bad. So you've got to stop jamming your toe into the door, which is the equivalent of stop putting the foods that are creating inflammation in the body into the body, okay? And then we need to address the wound. We need to address the toe in the analogy. So maybe it needs Neosporin and a splint. So for your gut, then we need to give it some supplements to help it heal. And then we can slowly reintroduce the foods that were previously causing the inflammation. The exciting thing about a food sensitivity is it's not something once you figure it out that you have to eliminate forever. You just need to pull it out for a bit, heal the gut lining, and then we can slowly reintroduce those foods. And we should be able to consume apples in moderation, garlic in moderation, avocados in moderation, red meat in moderation, without having the inflammatory response, as long as our gut is healthy. Okay, so those are 2 tests that we can do to see exactly what foods. The most common ones, the reason we say take sugar out, take dairy out, and take gluten out, is because the most common food sensitivities are those 3: sugar, gluten, and dairy. Okay, so if you want to know exactly what foods it is for you, those are 2 options for you. The third is the Viome stool test. Okay, yeah, it's a little messy, it's a little funky. You got to send away your stool. It's a kit that comes to your house again, and it does the food sensitivity piece, but it also will tell you the diversity of your microbiome. Are you short on this type of bacteria? Do you have an overpopulation of this bacteria? And it really helps you optimize not only your diet, but the bacteria of your gut. And there are specific probiotics that we might need to take. I actually just did this with my daughter. My daughter's 6 months old, and she's been struggling with eczema, and it's just eating this mama alive, because I'm gluten free, I'm dairy free, I'm soy free, our house is free from all the things as far as that go on her skin, that come into contact with her skin. I try and do really well with the chemicals. I've told our nanny, please don't wear perfume, that poor girl. Anyways, and this girl's still struggling with eczema. And so I did a stool test for her, and I sent it off, and it recently came back. And what I figured out is that the probiotic I was giving her was, she had plenty of that bacteria already, and I was creating an overpopulation of that bacteria, and she didn't have enough of another type of bacteria, and the lack of that good bacteria is actually linked to eczema. So I had to change her probiotic. Another thing that we did, we added it's another spray. It's something to help her skin in the meantime. And then I take a probiotic as well, because I'm breastfeeding, and so I want to make sure that she's getting a nice diversity of microbiome. So stay tuned. We're still in the healing. It looks a lot better than I did 2 weeks ago, which is pretty cool, because I'm watching this happen in real life. But the Viome test is a test for adults, geared for adults, that does that exact same thing. It looks at all the bacteria of your gut and lets you know what you're short on, what you need a little bit more of. Do you have that inflammation in the gut, and how do you optimize gut health?
Hey, Michelle, I just saw 2 questions pop up that were both relevant to what you just talked about. So I thought we could knock them out as we
Yeah,
go.
go ahead.
One is stevia safe as a sweetener?
Yes.
Okay, that is, okay. And then the other was, I've seen food sensitivity tests reported as inconsistent because they're simply triggered by what you eat frequently or recently ate before the test. Are these different? I guess, are the ones you're talking about different? And have you heard that?
So I understand what you're saying, and depending on how bad your gut is, you have to look at the results, right? If all the things that light up are just the foods that you eat too often, it's a sign that your body needs more diversity. Okay, so it might be, yes, you're eating a lot of those foods, and so therefore they're triggered, but also it's a good reminder that we need different kinds of foods. Does that make sense? We need more diversity in our gut, or within our nutrition.
Yeah,
So
I think that makes sense. So like if it says beef and whatever, doesn't mean that beef is necessarily bad, but maybe if you lessen beef for a few weeks and ate more fish and chicken, that would probably be a good idea. And then
that's
you
right. That's right.
eat
Yeah,
beef maybe a third of the time, not every day.
that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Michelle, one that goes along with that too is honey a good sugar substitute as well? Local produced honey.
It's still going to spike the blood sugar. It's
Mhm.
less inflammatory to the body as long as it's not processed,
Mhm.
doesn't like raw honey. I would say in moderation can be a good substitute. Yeah, especially if it's less about a weight loss journey. If you're on a weight loss journey, really, I would minimize your honey intake. But if you're not trying to minimize, if you're not trying to lose weight and you're just trying to do overall health, yes, that would be a healthy substitute. Going back to stevia though, and guys, we got to get to the other half of this presentation. I'm long-winded today. I'm sorry. The stevia, a lot of times if you buy the stevia packet, it says stevia, and then if you look at the ingredients, it's erythritol and stevia, or one of those sugar alcohols and stevia. You want pure stevia. The best way to do it is go on Amazon and buy a liquid stevia where the ingredients are just stevia extract. Okay, you don't want the sugar alcohol mixed in.
And then real quick, when you
Yeah.
mentioned like dairy, I've had this question come up, is goat cheese, does that count, or is that better for you than other kinds of dairy?
For a lot of people that can't tolerate dairy, they can tolerate the protein in goat's milk and goat cheese. So that's me. I do goat cheese and I don't do any other dairy. Really, it's just a personal, you have to be aware of how dairy affects you. And maybe you'll notice when you eat goat cheese, you're fine. And when you eat regular like cow's milk and cheese from cows, you'll notice some symptoms. So that's just a personal, you
Okay.
gotta pay attention.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so number 3, fixing the root cause here. So the neosporin on the toe, the splinting of the toe, going back to our analogy where you're jamming your toe into the door, we have to repopulate the gut with good bacteria. All right, we've got to heal that gut lining and pack it full of good bacteria, nice diverse microbiome. So we need a probiotic. All right, Thorne makes a great one. The Floramen, that's the one I like to recommend. If you do the Viome test, they're going to recommend one specifically for you for the bacteria that you need. Floramen is a good place to start. L-glutamine, that's like neosporin for the gut lining. It really helps coat the gut lining and help heal the fissures that might be there. Zinc and fish oil. Fish oil is a natural anti-inflammatory. Zinc is another one that's really good for that gut lining. Thorne is the brand I love to recommend. Metagenics, Pure Encapsulations, Designs by Health are all really good top quality supplement brands. We've talked about that. And then we want to consume a diverse diet, 30 different types of plants per week that include fermented foods, yogurt, kimchi, sauerkraut, kombucha. Okay. Almonds, bananas, flax, and cabbage are all foods with prebiotics. Prebiotics are foods for the probiotics. It's food for the bacteria in your gut. All right, and I'll send these slides because I got to keep it moving. All right, let's dive into the other side of the presentation, and we'll do questions on all of it at the end. Let's talk about environmental toxins. So again, if we're trying to get into the nitty-gritty and do our best to optimize our overall health, this is a piece of the puzzle that we need to be aware of. And we are swimming, unfortunately, in an environmental toxic soup. And there's a lot of it that we can't control, but there's a lot that we can. And awareness is the first place to start. All right, so within the environmental toxin umbrella, we've got heavy metals, benzene, microplastics is the one we're going to really focus on today, phthalates, I know that's a funky word, but it's pronounced phthalates, PFAs, and pesticides. All right, so all of those are toxic, all of those are in our environment. Plastics are the one that we're really going to dive into. We can do a presentation on all these one day if we really want to. But let's define microplastics. They're basically just tiny particles of plastic, okay? Less than 5 millimeters roughly in size, come from the breakdown of larger plastic items. They're intentionally manufactured at small scale, okay? So they are in our environment. Think about how much plastic is in your environment. It's everywhere, and we're just now figuring out that it's becoming a problem in our health. Here's some stats on it. We've got 3 million tons of microplastics released into the environment annually. So it's getting into our water, it's in our water runoff, it's in the oceans, we all know about that. 12 million tons of plastic enter the ocean each year. That's a huge problem. We should be worried about that. That's from either dumping our trash into the ocean or from fishing. Microplastic pollution has been detected in human blood for the first time. 80% of the individuals they tested had microplastics in their blood. And now where is it going after it's in your blood? It's not leaving the body, it's being lodged in human organs. So we're finding microplastics in places like the placenta and your colon and other organs around the body. Okay, that's real scary that these things are now building up in our body because of the heavy loads that we're exposed to so frequently. This is the worst one right here. The University of Newcastle study found the average person consumes around 2,000 tiny pieces of plastic or microplastics every week. Would you like to know what that is the equivalent of? That is the equivalent to eating 1 credit card of plastic per week. Per week. Not per year, every week. All right? That's really scary. And these microplastics don't do a great job of breaking down. They don't do a great job of just going right through the body and coming out the other end. Again, they get picked up in our bloodstream, they get lodged in our organs. So we need to do better about making sure we're making better choices to minimize our exposure to microplastics, because here are 3 of the major consequences of microplastics. We've got metabolic disorders. That's a group of medical conditions. Okay, so that would be diabetes, that would be high cholesterol, that would be stroke, high blood pressure, things that are plaguing our country right now. Neurotoxicity. All right, so they're making their way, they're crossing the blood-brain barrier, okay, and then they're making their way into our brain and our spinal cord, which impact memory, coordination, muscle weakness, mood disorders, depression, anxiety, mood swings. Degenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's are linked to microplastics crossing the blood-brain barrier. And then reproductive and developmental toxicity. This is a big one. We are having a major issue with reproductive health in our country, a lot of issues with infertility, miscarriage, and it comes back to this toxic soup as one of the pieces of the puzzle of why that is. Okay, they're known to be major disruptors of the endocrine system. That's the system that produces hormones in the body. So we're seeing men with high levels of estrogen that is presented with gynecomastia, which is basically man boobs, low libido, weight gain specifically around the middle, brain fog, being sick frequently are all signs of low testosterone due to, could be, microplastic exposure, right? And then on the female side, difficulty with conception, difficulty carrying a baby to full term, developmental delays within the baby because they are crossing into the placenta, which that's where all the nutrients of the baby come from. So therefore they're being passed along to the baby. So definitely something that we need to take seriously. What are ways that we can do this? Where are they coming from? How are we being exposed to all these microplastics? So think about your food. Picture your own kitchen. Picture your Tupperware container. Are you packaging your Tupperware, your food, your leftovers in plastic, or is it going in glass? When you flip your pancakes on Sunday morning, are you using a plastic spatula or stainless steel? When you serve your hot dinner, are you serving it on a glass plate or a plastic plate? For those of you that have kids on the call, most kids' plates are made from plastic. And then we put hot food right on the plastic, and the plastic leaches into our food. Okay, same with plastic utensils, especially when heated. They get hot and that plastic leaches into our food. You take hot food that you made as a meal prep and you divvy it up into plastic Tupperwares, that plastic is leaching into our food. Our drinking water. This is a scary one for me because I feel like it's just, there's nothing you can do about it. Yes, you can get a filter on your house, but man, it's a tough one. The plastic is leaching into our tap water. Everybody's drinking out of plastic bottles these days. Just before the call, called David out. He's drinking his Athletic Greens, which is good, but out of a plastic bottle. All right, and then Gatorade, Powerade, those sports drinks. If you go to the gas station, it's just walls of drinks in plastic. They leach into whatever it is that we're drinking. Personal care products. This might be one you haven't thought of, but there are lots of microplastics in our personal care products. Exfoliating scrubs, those little beads that are in exfoliating scrubs, those are little plastic beads. Toothpaste, it's in toothpaste. It's in 90% of mascara has microplastics in it. 85% of lipstick and lip gloss, microplastics. 74% of foundation, 43% of face powders. 83% of Sephora products have microplastics. 99% of the Lush, fresh, handmade, you like that? That sounds like it's healthy, right? Fresh, handmade cosmetics, but 99% have microplastics. 85% of Maybelline. And then if you look at the 10 best-selling cosmetic brands, 87% of their products all contain microplastics. So we're being exposed to this stuff everywhere. And that might feel so overwhelming. All right, so what do we do? What do we do about this? I want to give you guys some takeaways and have time for questions. So the first is we have to invest in a stainless steel or glass water bottle. Really low-hanging fruit. Hopefully you have one. It's just a matter of using it, remembering it to wash it and fill it up. I've got a Stanley. I have a Clean Canteen. I have a Yeti. And I try and rotate between the three of them, but do your best. And from an environmental standpoint too, then we're putting less plastic into the ocean. It's cyclical, right? Then our fish are getting exposed to less microplastics. So the fish that we eat are less full of microplastics. So therefore we have less microplastic coming into our body. I know, again, sometimes it just feels so daunting, but let's just do what we can. And we can invest in a glass or stainless steel water bottle. Those are the three brands I love. I could have put Stanley on there as well. Number two, we've got to redo our kitchen so that the cooking utensils, we don't have any plastic. It's all stainless steel or bamboo. All All right, that's what I would really recommend. Stainless steel, bamboo. And then for plates, we want glass plates. And then for Tupperware, we want glass Tupperware. We want the Pyrex or whatever brand you want, but make sure that you're taking hot food and putting it in glass, or you're reheating food. It's always in glass. We never, ever, ever microwave plastic. Do not heat plastic. That's where we get the extra dose of microplastics leaching into our food. Okay, then they're disrupting our endocrine system. They're disrupting our brain, remember? Okay. These I love. So you can actually scan the screen right now if you're at home. So there's 2 apps that are doing a great job in helping us eliminate or minimize our exposure to these microplastics in the products that come into our house. So things like your mascara, things like your laundry detergent, your shampoo, your conditioner, your face wash. If you want to know if your foundation has microplastics in it, these 2 apps, the EWG Healthy Living app and the Beat the Microbead app, they're going to let you know the health of the cleaning product or the toiletry product that you currently have. So if you have an Android phone, scan the QR code on the left of each of those. If you have an Apple phone, scan the QR code on the right, and that'll take you right to download the app onto your phone. And then once you've got the app, you can then scan the products. Just scan the whatever that code is, the barcode on your mascara box, scan it on the back of your face wash, scan it on your shampoo, and it'll tell you on a scale from 1 to 10 how healthy is that product for your body. A lot of times we forget that our skin is our biggest organ. Our skin, whatever we put on our skin, whatever our skin comes into contact with, it could even be the clothes that we wear. There's microplastics in our clothes. I know I told you it was overwhelming. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that, but it's true. Your skin, whatever you put on your skin, whatever comes into contact with it, your skin absorbs it. And right on the other side of your skin is your bloodstream. So similar to the gut, right? We've got the bloodstream right there, and it picks up these microplastics, and then you've got them circulating around, or chemicals or whatever it is in your skin products. So we have to think about our skin not as this real tough barrier like, metal, and whatever we put on our skin isn't going to penetrate into our body. It is. And the thing with our skin is that it's different from what we eat, because when we eat your food, you have your liver. Your liver helps detoxify some of the things that enter your body through your digestive tract. When, things come into contact with your skin, it goes right into the bloodstream. Okay, so we have to be aware of the things: our shampoo, our conditioner, our sunscreen, our lotion, our face wash, our laundry detergent, our hand soap that's in our house. Start going around the house and scanning things. It might get a little overwhelming, but we do need to be aware. And what's great about these apps is it gives you healthy alternatives. All right, so if your sunscreen comes up as a 10, real bad, it has, microplastics in it, it's got known carcinogens in it, there's a link between that sunscreen and asthma. A lot of the aerosol sunscreens are guilty of that. Then it'll give you some options that are much healthier for you and your family. Okay, so I love the EWG Healthy Living app. That's the one that we have for our house that I have on my phone. So that's the one I go by. If you want to do both, you can absolutely do both, but they are a lifesaver, because how in the world are we supposed to know what's in our products? We don't have time to sit there and read all the labels. Just download the app, and then next time you go to the store, start scanning, or when you go in your bathroom, start scanning and figure out what's good and what maybe could be upgraded next time. A few miscellaneous things to talk about. We want to vacuum regularly. We get microplastic dust that falls off of all kinds of, my house is full of toys. I've got a 2-year-old and a 6-month-old. We've got plastic toys everywhere. Microplastics are falling into the carpet, they're getting into the air, and the carpet gets stirred up, and we're inhaling microplastic dust. I know it's something that, again, feels very overwhelming to think about. Like, oh my gosh, I can't get away from it. It's everywhere. But just one thing, we can vacuum more often. Right? We can do that. That's one thing that's within our control. Another thing we can consider is a carbon block filter for the water in your home. So for all the incoming water, you can put a big filter on your house, and so that all your shower water, all your sink water, and then even the water that's coming through your fridge, it's all been filtered extra great. We've gotten the microplastics out so that you minimize your exposure of microplastics that are coming in through the water. And then I mentioned briefly that we've got microplastics in our laundry, or in our clothes. And so when we wash our clothes, we actually release the microplastics into the water. And then that water goes in to be treated by the city and all that, but they can't get all the microplastics out. So if we can do our part by installing a filter in your washing machine, it can catch those microplastics, and then you can dispose of the microplastics more appropriately versus them getting into the water system. I know that feels really overwhelming as well. For our family, I'll be really transparent with you. We do the filter of the water on our house, and then I just try and vacuum really regularly, but I don't have a filter on our washing machine. Maybe one day we'll get there. All right, so maybe you're like thinking, oh my gosh, I've done all these things wrong. I've obviously eaten a credit card of microplastics every week for the last 30 years. How in the world do I get these microplastics out of my body? This is me. Few things we can do. We got to sweat regularly. Sweating is really good. It helps detox our body from all of the environmental toxins that we are swimming in. So that could be from exercise or from a consistent sauna practice. Summer's around the corner, and if you guys just go outside and go for a walk and it produces a nice good sweat, that's doing it. All right, so it doesn't have to be something where you get your heart rate up. We just need to sweat. We need to expel things from our body. Deep breathing exercises. This is pretty cool. So when you do deep breathing exercises, it actually helps you expel microplastics from your lungs that you've inhaled. All right, so there's different YouTube videos you can watch. There's meditation practices you can do that involve deep breathing, and you're breathing, belly breathing. You're really deep breathing deep into the bottom of your lungs. You're filling those up, and then you're expelling some of those microplastics. 50 grams of fiber per day. This helps stimulate your microbiome. It helps stimulate along all the things in your digestive tract so that you're having 1 to 2 regular bowel movements per day. All right, so if you're not going to the bathroom and having a bowel movement 1 to 2 times per day, we need to increase our fiber intake. I believe the FDA recommends only 25 grams, but if you talk to Mark Hyman or someone else that's in the functional medicine world, they'll tell you we really should be shooting for roughly 50 grams of fiber per day. This is green leafy vegetables, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, kale, beans have a good amount of fiber. The most fibrous dense food is actually chia seeds. So use chia seeds on your salad, put them in a smoothie, just put them in your water if you want. But that helps get your digestive tract moving so that we're having 1 to 2 bowel movements per day, because that's another way that we expel toxins. And then lastly, we can consider these 3 supplements. Glutathione, that is a binder, they call it a chelator, but it helps bind with toxins and expel those toxins from your body. NAC, NAC, and then vitamin C also. They're really helpful in detoxifying some of the things that we come into contact with on a daily basis. Okay, all right, I left a couple minutes for questions. I'm sorry, you guys, I'm really passionate about this stuff. I know you can probably hear it in my voice, but I would love to hear from you. What questions do you have? And I really hope I didn't overwhelm you.
So one of the questions that came up from one of the listeners is, how do we avoid the plastic that we drink through in Yetis/safe liquid containers?
How do you avoid the plastics in your Yeti?
Well, that's what it says. How do we avoid the plastic that we drink through?
I wonder if
maybe
they,
like the
I wonder if
lid.
they mean, I wonder if they mean like the straw and
I'm
the,
sure they do,
the
as I
top
sit here
part.
with my plastic straw.
Yeah.
So I actually have, I should have put it in here. I have a stainless steel straw. They make stainless steel straws, so you could drink through that if you really want to. I think just the fact that you're not having your water sit in a plastic bottle all day, you're doing yourself a major favor. If you want to get real serious, get those stainless steel straws.
That makes sense.
I think that's all the questions from participants. That was very insightful. Thank you so much, Michelle. Lots to learn and think about. What about like for like cooking? What about wood? Like wood spatulas?
Bamboo. Yeah. Yep. That's all good. Yeah. So bamboo or stainless steel.
Okay.
So David asked me a question offline. He asked me about, he wanted to go to a yogurt museum because he thought he wanted to get a little culture.
Oh my gosh.
Gotta throw that in there, but I can't believe you asked me that, David. That was really weird. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to broadcast the whole thing.
There's the dad joke.
I had to get it in. Sorry.
Well played. Oh, another question popped up. What are your thoughts on silicone cooking products, storage containers, and are silicone utensils safe?
Personally, I don't do any silicone in our house. I would really try and encourage you to use glass containers or stainless steel containers, and the stainless steel and the bamboo. Yeah.
Cool.
Question. So I did have one, two. That was it there. Another one too was, so you said minimizing. One of the things I want to say as well, because this kind of gives a lot of people anxiety. I know even in our team when they saw the information about this, and there's only so much that you can do. There's things you're going to be exposed to. I think the biggest thing is talking about is mindset of not being fearful all the time. I think that you can walk around fearful that everywhere you look, everything is horrible for you. But there's going to be things you just want to minimize. I think that was a really good message, but it's really the mindset around this too. It's not meant to instill fear in everything you look at. It's meant to expand your knowledge, and more importantly, to give you that, listen, there's things I can do to minimize microplastics, to maximize my gut health, which can often lead to cures for things that people take pharmaceuticals for today. I thought that was some of the biggest messages, but I think that mindset piece that you'd said is probably the single biggest thing people need to do rather than walk around afraid. Just having this knowledge is super important. I think that's a good portion of what you said too.
Yeah, and Chris, if I could expand on that. So I got to a place in this career, you can probably understand that it does feel like that at some point, that everything is bad for you and you just feel like paralyzed and you don't know what to do and you just feel like you're doomed. And I was sitting with one of my mentors. He's an integrated pediatrician, and I was expressing this fear to him, and he was like, Michelle, I have to remind you that your body is an incredible being, and that if you can get it right 70% of the time, 80% of the time, do pretty good with your food, do a little bit more glass, don't spray air fresheners in your house, your body is so incredible that it can take care of you the other 20 to 30% of the time, where it's outside your control. And that, to me, it brought me so much peace to sit there and listen to one of my mentors say that, because I was feeling so doom and gloom about everything. And so I want to pass that along to you guys.
Super helpful. Yeah,
Very
that's super
helpful.
helpful. Yeah, I totally appreciate that. I think,
Thank
go ahead. But
No, I was just gonna say thank you.
yeah, without a doubt. Thank you. I mean, that was really, really, really informative. I think the nice thing that you working on the end, I know that a lot of in my household, I've got 3 women, and there can be a lot of the anxiety about some of the stuff that you're talking about. So it's always good to end that with the idea of, listen, 70% of the time, 80% of the time, you're looking for this. Thank you so much for that, because that'll help ease some of the anxiety that goes with it as well. So outstanding as usual. Love it. I know you can go deeper into every single one of them. You're passionate about it. So am I. But thank you tremendously as well. I really appreciate that. And you'll send over some of the slides and the things that people can do about it. I think it'd be great. We'll be able to forward.
We'll get a copy of the presentation that we can try to email out, or copy of the webinar today. You can have that as well to replay. We'll get that up. So thanks everybody for listening, participating. Thank you, Michelle. Thanks, Tim and Chris in your offices. And everybody have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you as well.